Hey guys, welcome to part 4 of Rickshaw Girl. Alright, so, where we left off, remember Salim was feeling sort of upset, I think, because he doesn't really quite understand why Naima has been ignoring their signal, right, which is I think he has a white handkerchief and she has a white ribbon, so he's been trying to meet with her, but she hasn't. So, chapter 8. One day, Father surprised them by coming home early for lunch. The rickshaw's looking worse than ever, he said. It's starting to rust. And Hassan's shop should be open for business by now. I'll go there today, and if it's open, I'll price the repairs. But have you earned enough money, Father? Naima asked, even though she knew the answer. The hut was quiet. Slowly, Mother eased a bangle over her hand and handed it to Father. He slipped the bangle inside his pocket and fastened the button Mother had sewn on his shirt to keep his earnings safe. Naima's stomach clenched like a fist. She wanted to shout, cry, rip the pocket open, and grab the bracelet, but she knew it was no use. Mother's graceful movements would never make music again, and it was all Naima's fault. Father cleared his throat. I'll earn enough money to buy another bangle soon. The four of them ate rice and spinach and lentils in silence. Naima made herself chew and swallow, longing to fling herself on her mat and cover her face. But after lunch, Father took her hand and led her out into the bright hot light. Look at our alpanas, Naima. I did already, Father. Look closely. Naima let her eyes dwell on the fading patterns that Mother and Rashida had hastily invented for the contest. She stifled a groan. She hadn't cared much on International Mother Language Day, but now the mistakes made her feel even worse. Do you think you can improve our alpanas? Father asked. The contest's over, Father, Naima said. What's the use of fixing them now? We lost the prize. Don't do it for the prize, Father said. Make them right for their sake. He dropped a kiss on her head and climbed on the cycle seat. Tell Mother not to wait up. I'll head to the repair shop once the customers get scarce. Naima watched him pull away in the beat-up rickshaw, her heart sinking. Mother's bangle would be gone by the time he got home. She turned to frown once more at the alpanas on the threshold. The patterns were so off balance. If they'd added a square in this corner and one more paisley on the other two, the weight of the whole design would have worked better. Rashida was standing at the door. Silently, she handed her sister the leftover white rice powder paste, the brushes, the colored paints made from burnt earth, lentils, and spices. Then she turned and disappeared. Before Naima could stop herself, her mind began to dance with colors, shapes, sizes, balance, symmetry, patterns. Soon her hands were flying to keep up. She painted for a while, humming under her breath, forgetting everything but her work. Then she sat back and took stock of what she had done. The revised alpanas on the step didn't look like the design she might have invented if she'd started from scratch. Those would have been good, but as she looked closely, Naima had to admit the truth, even to herself. These might actually be better. Chapter 9. The idea came wheeling into her mind as though it had been waiting for the chance. She was still the best alpana painter in the village, wasn't she? Surely painting rickshaws wasn't much harder than designing alpanas. Why couldn't she work for the rickshaw painter in exchange for the rickshaw repair? Think this through, Naima, she warned herself sternly. So she's sort of learning a lesson, right? She sometimes does things without totally thinking about the consequences, and she is starting to do better. Men in the village sometimes traded work with each other. Salim had burned garbage the week before in exchange for roof repairs on his family's hut. The rickshaw repair shops in Naima's village always hired a boy or two as helpers. Naima pulled the white ribbon from under the sleeve of her salwar kameez. After tying it in a bow around her braid, she swung the braid in front of her shoulder and waited for Salim to drive by. She saw his eyes widen as he picked up her signal. Making sure Mother and Rashida were still asleep, she slipped away to meet him. The banana leaves stirred up a breeze as Salim pushed through them. Naima, I was so glad to see that ribbon again. Why have you been avoiding me? For the first time in her life, Naima couldn't meet his eyes. Are we still friends? Salim asked. Naima looked up and saw the familiar nut-brown face, the dark eyebrows that met in the middle of Salim's forehead, the almond eyes full of concern. We'll always be friends, she said. Salim's teeth gleamed like the inside of a coconut. That's a good simile. That means they're very white. So what's your new plan? He asked. How'd you know I have a plan? He shrugged. I've known you ever since you were born, Naima. Some of your ideas are crazy, but you always think of something. And a few of them are really good. They are? Like what? You invented that new color for alpanas by mixing crushed marigold petals with papaya rinds, remember? That's one reason you won the prize last year. And you came up with our secret signal, too, which nobody's figured out yet. Here they are. Naima smiled for what felt like the first time in a long while. Salim was right. Some of her ideas did work. So what have you come up with this time? He asked. He looked doubtful as he listened to her explanation. You'll be in heaps of trouble when your parents find out, he said. They'll never let you go to the shop again. How are you going to earn enough to pay for the repairs? I have the rest of this afternoon and all evening to paint, don't I? I can pay for a small part of the repairs at least. When Father arrives, I'll just show him my work. There's a chance he might let me go back and earn the rest, Salim. He wants to save Mother's bangle as much as I do. But you've never painted rickshaws before, Naima. Alpanas are different. Naima was silent. A part of her mind had been wondering the same thing ever since she came up with the plan. Could she paint a rickshaw? Salim stood up suddenly. You should give it a try. Sitting around doing nothing is harder for you than making mistakes and getting in trouble. I'll help you do this, Naima. Before she could say anything, he ran out of the banana grove. She couldn't believe how quickly he returned, carrying a bundle under his arm. Nobody's awake yet, he said, but you'll need to hurry, and be careful. Our villages are safe, Naima said. I'll be fine. You'll be a stranger there, and it's about an hour's walk away. I wish I could drive you, but I have to get some paying fares. Father's going to wonder already what I've been doing all afternoon. Naima tugged the white ribbon off her braid. Here, this is for you. For me? Why? It's a present, a keepsake, to remember that we're friends, even if we can't meet here as often as we used to. Now you leave first, and I'll come out after a few minutes. As she walked back to the hut, Salim drove by. He rang the bell and waved, making sure she saw the strip of white gleaming around his wrist. The single room of the hut was dim and hushed. Mother and Rashida's sleeping bodies hadn't moved. Naima knew that they wouldn't start to worry until it got dark. Mother sometimes allowed Naima to visit a cousin on the other side of the village, and Naima had forgotten to ask permission once or twice before heading out. She was counting on Mother, thinking that she'd forgotten again. She opened the bundle Salim had handed her. Inside, she found a cap, a lungai cloth, and a kurta shirt. They were the fancy set that he wore to the mosque. Silently, she took off her salwar kameez and put on the boy's clothes, tucking her braid carefully under the cap. So, that is probably a moment of suspense. Actually, that's where I'm going to leave it. So we've got just 3 more chapters. So next time it'll be a little longer. We are on chapter 10 now. So, 4 more chapters. Maybe we have a little time. Yeah, chapter 10 is short. The village was slowly waking up. It wouldn't be long before the lanes were bustling with rickshaws and people. The tea stall owner was boiling a big kettle of water. His television, the only one in the neighborhood, would draw a big crowd of men who wanted to watch the afternoon news and drink tea. Other vendors along the street were starting to arrange their wares: rubber sandals, wool shawls, toys, baskets of pomegranate, cinnamon sticks, and clothes. At first, Naima felt odd in Salim's clothes. She kept away from other people, worried they'd see through her disguise. As the streets began to fill, though, an older boy walking in the opposite direction came quite close, looked right at her, and then peered over her shoulder to catch a glimpse of someone else. Other villagers, who were starting to stir up the lanes with noise and dust, didn't seem to notice anything unusual about Naima either. Only a few women and girls her age were out walking. They stood out like marigold blossoms in the grass. Everyone stared at them. Naima strode along in her disguise, enjoying the freedom from curious eyes. How easy to be a boy, she thought. I could go into the tea stall and watch television if I wanted. I could stop and bargain with the fruit sellers. But she didn't have time to linger. She had to get to that repair shop before Father did. She forced herself not to think about Father's reaction when he found her. After leaving the marketplace, Naima took a shortcut, splashing through rice paddies. She found the lane that led to the other village and trotted along it. She knew the way. Father had taken her and Rashida there for a drive after bringing the new rickshaw home. What she didn't know was how to find the new repair shop. A boy about her age was selling bananas in the center of the other village. 3 taka a dozen, he was shouting. Naima strode up to him, confident in her disguise. Do you know where the new rickshaw repair shop is? She asked, remembering to deepen her voice. By the pond, the boy said, steadying his basket as he tipped his chin to show her the direction. Why do you want to go there? I'm hoping the new owner might need a helper. Do you know if the shop's hired someone already? The boy smirked. Not that I know of, he said. You'd have to be desperate to want that job. Naima could tell he was hoping she'd ask more questions, but she didn't have time for gossip. I am desperate, she said, forgetting to lower her voice. She headed in the direction of the shop, leaving him staring after her. The shadows of the coconut trees were growing tall and thin, and when Naima reached the pond, she spotted the shop immediately, a small hut in a yard littered with rickshaw panels, tools, cans of paint, weathered benches, and tires. She glimpsed an older woman standing beside a stack of tin panels. Naima knew she was a widow because only women who had lost their husbands wore white saris. Excuse me, Naima said politely, coming up behind the woman. Is this Hassan's rickshaw repair shop? This time, she remembered to lower her voice. What do you want? Can't you see that I'm busy? Did everybody have to waste precious time by asking questions? Naima fought to make her voice sound patient and respectful. My father's rickshaw needs repairs, she answered. I came to see if I could do some work in exchange for them. May I see the repairman to ask him this favor? I am the repairman, the woman said. Another twist. All right, you guys, we really are done for today. We will finish tomorrow with chapters 11, 12, and 13. All right.